So a major update to the shape-shifting phenomena that I have found is that what appears to be physical changes are in fact what I call demonic distortion. But if you don't want to call them demons, you might say spirit being distortion. But in any case, what I found by doing a self-examination using a frame-by-frame method, which I had not used before, and in the years before that I had been doing reptilian shapeshifter movies, what I would do was scrub slowly through the footage and then see if any anomalies show up. But what I found that you can get much more activity and seeing what's going on by stopping each frame, 1, 2, 3, 4, and seeing the changes that take place. And when I did that on a self-test for shapeshifting, I noticed that I was shapeshifting massively with complete reptilian features, including bumps, green splotches where those bumps were, like tiles on a reptile. And I didn't notice horns, but I noticed reptilian slit eyes and fangs, and actual fangs where it looks like a vampire. But what I believe is happening is that it's, first of all, let me just clarify, I know I'm not a physical shapeshifter, and I think I'm pretty observant. I think I would have noticed if I had like too much reptilian DNA. So this is kind of we're still on the fringes of credibility for this topic, and I want to try to clarify as much as I can about what I've discovered. And it's very confusing because at the same time, well, two things. I want to first say that when I describe that what we're seeing are physical changes with spirit beings, or demons as I call them, it is a little bit deflating or disappointing. And I know there's a lot of people watching this who believe in this phenomena and know that there are physical reptilian shapeshifters and so forth, are going to be saying that I am poo-pooing that, or saying that that is false, or that everything that we're seeing is just demons, and that is actually not what I am saying. But at the same time, it's also a little bit disappointing because a spirit being or demon is not as interesting as a physical monster that we can say that, yeah, that guy's a physical monster and we're going to see him, feasting down on some, kid or something. But it's all very confusing. But let me make clear that I am not saying that I don't think that there are physical shapeshifters. I really do believe that there are. And at the same time, I think that the majority, if not all of the footage that I have gotten, based on what I saw on myself, is in fact something that is completely difficult to understand, completely mysterious, and I liken it to the reverse speech thing, where it makes no sense by our understanding of reality why what someone says in reverse, revealing some truth about what they know or their deceptiveness or whatever, why that would come out in reverse speech. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would somebody say saying something and then in reverse it says I'm lying about this? It kind of sounds funny when you reverse it. And it's really hard to find it, by the way, when you're scrubbing through, but in any case you can, and a lot of stuff it's really obvious and clear. But my point is that at the same as the physical changes that I saw on myself with the reptilian bumps, the fangs, the transparency, also had transparency where a part of my jaw opened up and you can see the teeth inside, is actually clearly a result of spirit beings that are dwelling in and around me in some way that I do not understand. We do not understand how the demonic realm works. God knows how it works. We don't. We don't have anything tangible because really until now we haven't had any. Well, there are some people that do have the ability to. I saw this one guy had photography and they can kind of catch stuff. So there is some of this stuff out there, but we really don't have like a solid foundation of how to see spirit beings, right? Because otherwise it would be a lot more common. There would be a lot more science behind it. But in any case, so it's difficult to measure exactly what it is we're seeing. But the point is that what happens is that I don't know if it's the same as when a person sees it, but the photons coming from the subject to the lens of the camera somehow pick up on the character and features of whatever that spirit being that is in and around the persons involved. And what I can say about myself is that, for instance, as I was trying to say, is that I know that I'm not a physical shapeshifter. I would have noticed it. So if I'm seeing these real, and by the way, these features that I'm seeing, I'm talking about the reptilian bumps, horns, fangs, claws, discoloration, forehead ridges, all that kind of thing. These forms, when you're seeing them on the camera, and as I thought when I was looking at them, I thought that they were physical because they have texture, they have shadows from where they're sticking out, or you know, concave shape, and so and color and everything. And so how can this not be a physical shape, an actual physical shape-shifting change? But what I'm trying to say with this video in particular is that that in fact is the case. And so all the stuff that I've been revealing for this last 3 years, looking at mostly television and movies, where you see, you know, like a lump on this girl's neck, or her eye opens up, and you know, like with the RT News, and the bump forms on the arms of this one girl, and you can really see the bump. You can see it come up, and you can see it go down. It's got shadow, it's got texture and everything. But in fact, we're not looking at flesh actually changing. What somehow happens is that the spirit being that, like I said, I don't know how this works. And by the way, it's another confusing thing is that even thousands of them, according to Chris LaSala and some other demonologists, can live in a person simultaneously, occupying the same space, which is why in a lot of the work that you've seen me do, you see those ghosting shapes, and you see like a mouth here, and then it's kind of hard to understand. How come there's another mouth right here where its eyes should be, but you also see the eyes? What we're seeing is multiple beings piled in on top of each other in some way that a life form exists that we do not understand how that can possibly be. But it is. I mean, you can see it. You can see the teeth. You can see the eyes. You can see it mostly in these ghosting shapes. When the part of the film that's dark, so the ghosting comes out in the dark. But how you can really tell that this is affecting the physical shapes of the persons, like if you see the bumps around my eyes, it looks like I'm a Kardashian from the Star Trek Next Generation or something. You can see the ghosting in the dark part of the film, like say there's a dark area like there is here, and then as it merges into the face, you can see how it's lifting up the flesh. You can see how it's following the form of that ghosting being next to it. So this means that what we have to look for in these physical changes, or so-called physical changes that we're seeing, is in fact spirit being or demonic distortion, as I call it. But in any case, it's something that we don't understand, with teeth, and usually big teeth, very menacing looking. A common thing that you see with this demon indwelling is the side of the mouth opens up, and you see these jaggy teeth, and it makes no sense. It'll appear for one frame and disappear in the next. You'll see eyes, very distinct eyes, and even with a completely different color, just like an eye suddenly appears, or two eyes. And a lot of times you'll see, if the face is in total darkness, you'll see a complete face, or you'll see a complete face around it. But I think that, for instance, even Keanu's claw, which looks very physical, and I mean, you can see it change, you can see it grow, you can definitely see the forms, could in fact be this demonic distortion. And the fact of the matter is that Keanu Reeves is actually not a shapeshifter, a physical shapeshifter, but he could be. I'm saying I don't know. But we have to realize that, for instance, I talked to some people and I discovered that a few people have discovered this when they were investigating shapeshifting and they saw it on themselves. And I know how embarrassing it can be, because I almost said to myself, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to show people this. And it took me a while of looking at the footage and thinking about it and saying, well, I stand for truth, and so we got to go ahead and put this out there, embarrassing as it might be, because what this tells us then is that even Christians who've been given the gift of the Holy Spirit to believe that Jesus Christ is Lord can have demons dwelling in us. And as I found out later from demonologist Chris Lasala, he hasn't seen a person yet that doesn't exhibit some demonic behaviors, which means that everybody has them inside them. And he even said that he had demons inside of him, and that like the spirit rebuked him while he was joking around because he had a demon that was kind of wanting him to make jokes, influencing his thoughts to make jokes. But here he is casting demons out of other people. So this really confuses Christians. And when people saw some of that shape-shifting on me, for instance, this one guy saw it on me, and then he reported that I was a reptilian shapeshifter out to deceive everybody, when in fact I'm just like a lot of other people that I've been busting myself, saying that they were physical shapeshifters, when in fact it is a spirit being that we don't understand how it works, we don't understand what it's made out of, how the physical properties work, how they all can pack in somehow, like thousands of them simultaneously into the same space, and then it rotates so that you just see one for one frame, and then you see a different one in another frame. Don't know how it works, but in any case, it causes what appears to be a physical shape change. But in fact, it is what I think it's somehow, again, there's no reason why, because in a lot of cases, the demons that I'll see in the ghosting shape is much bigger than the person's head, and yet somehow you see in the physical change, the shapes that are following, like the tiles on the face, are following the size of the person's face, which is different from the size of the ghosting being that's next to it. So something else is happening where it's like the character of the demon or whatever it is affecting the way the flesh looks as the photons are coming from the subject to the receptor, and so it's showing what appears to be a physical change, but in fact it is not. But now here is another twist to throw in, which is that I heard Bill Schoenblum, he's a Schoenblum, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, he describes in one of his videos that he was into vampirism before he became a Christian, and he at one point invited a demon being into him, and he said that he was even wearing a new thing that his wife gave him, and he said that, but his whole body grew to match the size of this demonic being that came to live in him, and it ripped the new thing that his wife had made for him, so he was disappointed. But that was a really vivid illustration that when a spiritual being enters into you or is living in you, it could cause a physical change. So this is even more confusing, because then, well, wait a minute, aren't there shapeshifters that are reptilians, like hybrids, and they shapeshift from reptilian to human and back again, or other shapeshifters, and then those are real, and then how do we distinguish from that between the what we're seeing with what is just actually a spirit being affecting what the camera is seeing? Well, until we do a lot more research on this, we're just not going to know. But the main thing that I'm reporting here is that what looks like a physical change is in fact the result of a spirit being dwelling inside the person. And I had them too. I had demons, I have demons. And also, I'll show this a little bit further on in the video, but actual demons showing up in my hair. I mean, you can see the mouth, you can see the eyes, and what I notice with these demons is that they all look menacing. They all look evil. This big evil grin, and there's little ones like a little face over here that's going, and big ones, big ones taking up the whole space, or even looks like it's so big it might be going off into space. So this is all part of the confusing mix. But what's kind of, again, what's going to be kind of hard for people to realize, and will be against me saying about this, is that it's kind of disappointing to realize that what I had thought and what you all had thought was an actual physical shape-shifting beast, which, by the way, again, I'm not saying that this isn't happening. I do think it is. In fact, the scripture says, has a couple of distinct lines in it which indicate that the beasts, whether they're serpents, scorpions, or insectoids, or werewolves, or felines, whatever they are, they're physical, but at the same time, they also, their spirit bodies come to dwell in us. And I think that's what happened. I think the fallen angels became, or they left their bodies, or they died a long time ago, but their spirits are still living, and they wander around looking for bodies to indwell. And so that's what the earth kind of is, like a cesspool. Is all these disembodied spirits. Who knows where they came from or what they are, but a lot of them were living in the world. That's what the Egyptian paintings are. When you see that thing with the alligator face, it's not just a symbol for a god. I think these creatures actually look like that. It look like a man, except you put an alligator's head on it. And the same thing, there's one with looks like a cheetah, a lion, or a coyote, or a dog. There was one that looked like a bird. I think these, as hard as it is for us to believe that something like that could live, or and I do think that they were physical, or it could possibly be that the Egyptians saw these beings when they astral traveled or whatever, and they were able to see these beings with their somehow spiritual eyesight, and they could see what these beings look like, and that's why they drew those pictures. So I really don't know, but I do think that the scripture, first of all, it was a physical being that in the Garden of Eden that spoke with Eve, because it's not a serpent on the ground, which don't have vocal cords. I believe it was a lizard man, and that's what God is saying the serpent is. And a lizard man is who said to Eve, go ahead, it's not going to be a problem if you eat from that tree. And then there's another scripture which says that, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast, which means that A, they're physical, and B, their seed is compatible with humans. Okay, so here is a dramatic example. This is me, and you can see the ring around the eyes there, and it looks like, you see how it looks physical because there's shadow, there's texture, and you also see some of that discoloration. You see that green there. So this is an example of, now what I believe we're seeing here is, this is demonic distortion, or spirit being distortion, and what's happening is that a spirit being that is living inside of me in some way we don't understand is affecting what the camera sees. So it's very mysterious, but this is a dramatic change. And by the way, this is only happening in like a single frame. It's very, very quickly, because as I scrub through this 60 frames per second footage, you notice that it'll disappear in the next frame, or it'll change dramatically, and then something else might happen. But you see there's all kinds of stuff going on here that makes no sense. You see these scales here, and you see the discoloration. I've been seeing this on other people, and in fact, and thought that they were physical shapeshifters, but in fact they are not. It's not what we're looking at. What we're seeing is demonic distortion. My jaw is opening up there, and you see the teeth inside, and I don't know whether those are like demon teeth or whether it's because my flesh is exposed and you see the real teeth, but I think it doesn't matter, because what's really happening is it's demonic distortion. By the way, you can see what looks like a man's or a demon's face right there, and then you see its features are almost intersecting with my flesh. So it's really kind of interesting. And even what looks like could be another face, you see that eye and the mouth there. But I know some people will think it's kind of stretching. I'm seeing faces and everything, which could be happening to some extent, but you really do see a lot of these faces. And see that green? You see those? You see how the green is in there? And of course, you're not, you know, these pock marks and stuff are not physical changes. They're something that affects what the camera sees because of, you see that bump on my nose there? And when I was seeing this on other people, I thought that they were physical shapeshifters. And in fact, that's another twist to that, is that they could be with demonic distortion simultaneously. In fact, that makes sense that these reptilian shapeshifters would have probably even more demonic indwelling than the average person. But look at that. It looks like a reptilian eye there. You see that? You get all these strange shapes in these strange locations. And see that's the mouth, the large reptilian mouth that I pointed out on a lot of people. You see, that's a tooth that'll look like an eye, but you see how that goes all the way down my cheek there, and then you see, look at this ear. Does that look anything like what an ear should look like? And look at that strange warping, and I think that's because there's a spirit being living there. And it's there, and it's causing these distortions. You see all these strange bumps and contortions, and a lot of this stuff is. And you see, you see the very distinct pattern there, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I do a little drawing here on this. And a lot of people have messaged me saying, you know, they notice all kinds. See that? Look at that little face. You see that? You see the eye and the teeth right there? And it's not even on me. It's like it's off to the side. And by the way, see how it's got that weird grin with these big teeth, and the shapes don't really make sense? That's what you get a lot with this demonic distortion. And so we got a world where we're indwelled by these beings, these spirit beings, and this is an example of how something that's this shape here starts out. You can see this whole pattern, this whole row, and then you see it intersects. So what might be happening is and that almost looks like a teeth, like it's like a big mouth. And so that could be that the spirit being is at least one of them is right there, and then it causes that distortion in what the camera sees. Okay, and so here's another dramatic example of I'm going to darken this up a little bit here, of where the demonic distortion causes these strange shapes. Now this is me, and believe it or not, and it looks like a gremlin. You see how long the nose is elongated, and you see that triangle shape here. Let me just kind of point it out here with the pointer. You see this kind of shape showing here, and look at that eye. Look at that. See that triangle slit, and a sort of weird, kind of like this monstrous grin, and the nose is like really long like this. That is, I believe it doesn't make sense, again, by a physical wave of our current understanding, but it's in fact a result of a spirit being living inside of me, and or multiple spirit beings, and it'll just show up for a second like that, and then it'll switch. And I also got something that looked like I can't even tell. That just looks like some sort of weird evil beast. But I've gotten other stuff that looks like a lion. I kind of draw it out there a little bit. And there's another one. It looks really weird. Look at that weird grin with those large teeth there. Okay, this is not normally what I look like. And then you see how wide apart the eyes are? This makes no sense. Okay, this is just a single frame that I zoomed in on. It just doesn't make any sense, but you can really see how weird it is. And you see the way that eye opens up, and then you see like what looks like these big teeth inside of there. And the whole thing just looks weird. Like it looks like an eye, then an eye, then an eye, kind of like this multiple layered socket. But again, this is me, and I know, if I think I would have noticed if I was a reptilian shapeshifter. And my parents, I think I would have guessed, and my parents were pretty honest people. My mom was a doctor and my dad was a businessman. They would have told me if they were beasts, because I think the parents are often, they're going to tell their kids because they know that it might, their issue might surface someday, and they don't want to blow the cover for everybody else. I think they all have a pact that they do in anybody who blows cover, because I think that they know that human beings will come against them. It's a survival issue. I think if you have enough DNA to shapeshift, you know it, and you know that you better keep your mouth shut about it. And here, this is rather comparable to Harrison Ford. You can see it looks like this weird, devilish, demonic grin, and there's this kind of if you look at the way the eyes are shaped, that's not really how I look. And so if I didn't, if this wasn't me and I didn't know that I wasn't a physical shapeshifter, I would say this guy is a shapeshifter. But in fact, it's demonic distortion. It's a result of a spirit being living in the person, and then it's causing those weird changes that look physical. That has texture, it has shadow, and there's no reason, unless you know for sure that somebody isn't a shapeshifter, that you wouldn't understand finally that is in fact a something that we can't understand, why it affects the image that comes into the camera. But it's interesting because it shows like the character. You see how it kind of has that maniacal grin, because the mouth kind of comes up this way. It's like a big grin. And I think that's the character. A lot of these demons are, they have, and I've seen this on lots of people besides myself, is that it gets this like maniacal grin going all the way up to, maybe that's where the saying comes from, ear to ear grin, because you get that huge mouth. Okay, here is just another example of this is the way my ear should look, and then here's how the distortion looks. You see how it's all kind of filled in and weird looking? I mean, it doesn't even look like an ear. It looks like all that's, and I believe that that's a result of a demon. And you can see what looks like that pattern. You see that pattern there, 1, 2, 3. It's actually more than that. You see there's one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. It's a reptilian feature of the reptile being that's living inside of me, or at least that was at that moment. And here's a creature. You see how you can see the eyes and the nose on my neck, if that's even what I'm looking at. But in any case, you can see it's definitely something that isn't normally there, and that I don't think would show up to just the naked eye. And you see there's that distortion again. Look at the way my eye is distorted there. I think that's another important point that I want to make, is that you get this demonic distortion also with motion. So the motion, somebody can argue and say, well, it's just the motion. That's why you're getting these strange shapes, and you are going to get strange shapes from motion. But what's happening simultaneously and difficult to understand is that the demonic distortion is coming out with the motion. So it's affecting the way the motion looks. You see, that's my mouth there. And I was noticing on the latest movie that FrequencyFence made, she says it's the last one she's going to make, but it's like an hour and 20 minutes, and she was pointing out how a lot of these people have the, these extremely narrow shapes and stuff disappears and stuff like that. And I think it's, once again, I think that even when you're seeing these non-human features, you see that? She was pointing out that tendon quite a bit, and I think that it's hard to say because I never see that in real life, but I think that is a demonic distortion feature. It's being caused by the spirit being living inside the person, in this case me, and it's nasty looking. I mean, look at all that stuff. You see that? You see those patterns? You see those organic looking shapes? It's not just film grain. I mean, there really is something to these pock marks. And here we go, look at the fangs. You see that? And I don't mean to say this is cool, but I'm telling you, I don't have fangs, even though they might seem cool, like people are into vampire culture and stuff. But I believe that my teeth wouldn't stretch like that if it were not for an indwelling demonic presence. It's a spirit being living inside us, as also described by the Bible. Jesus cast 7 devils out of Mary. And you see, you get all these strange shapes that appear to be physical, but in fact, it is demonic distortion. You get these weird things. Look at my nose. Looks like a skull pointing downwards. See, there's the patterns. You see, you get all these bumps and patterns and weird pock marks and weird shapes that shouldn't be there. It makes no sense whatsoever. And look at my teeth there. See that? You see that? Look at those fangs. Wait, I'm going to back that up a little bit. Those little those little faces. See those little faces in my hair? Just want to look at these fangs a little bit more because it's really quite interesting. See, look at that. I mean, that looks like, see, if I didn't know that I don't vamp out, I'd say that was physical, because how else can it form that physical shape? I mean, you can see it's, clearly it's there. But if it's not physical, then it means that there's something that's causing it. And I believe you may not even be seeing like the demonic beast's actual elongated teeth. What's happening is that the character of that demon is transferred into what the camera sees from the flesh, and then it just somehow merges it, and then you get what looks like this, what looks like a physical change. And if I ever experience people being afraid of me, this could be why. Because they can sense the level of demonic indwelling. And look at this is my hair. Kind of hard to see here, but you see that face? You see that little face there? And you see the jaggy teeth? And you see these little faces. You see that big face? See the nostrils there? It's really it's mind-blowing. I mean, it's mind-blowing how this could all be going. Look at those faces. This is the back of my head, okay? Me, the guy who's making this video. And so you can really see that it really does. It looks like what it does to hair is, I think it's the same thing as the flesh. It just kind of uses the texture and light and available material, and it somehow reflects this this creature, whatever it is and however it lives and however they live. It's very weird. And I just want to show you this. This is a still frame, and it shows me. You can see me, and then in the background I kind of tried to turn up the contrast. You can see what looks like a dinosaur or reptilian face. You can see like the jaggy back and forth teeth. It makes no sense how, I kind of drew a picture of it here, how they could be so big like that, but you can see it, and you can see the eyes, and it even looks like another eye on top of there. Like I said, you got these demons on top of each other, but you can make out, and this reminds me of that illustration from the Susan Reed book, the Body Snatchers or whatever. And you can, she says that these reptilians attach themselves to the back. So this is I think that's what demons are, and that this is a disembodied reptilian spirit that may have attached itself to the back of me. So I've had this monkey on my back or serpent on my back all this time, and it influences my thoughts. And I can definitely say for myself that I have experienced that all my life. In fact, what's really interesting is that I've even drawn when I was young. I was acting out, and not like something super serious, but like just really acting out at school. And what happened was they sent me to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist had me draw a picture of myself. And this is way back, I mean, like when I was 7 or 10 or whatever it was, and I drew half a person and half a dinosaur, like a dinosaur. So it's interesting that even back then I saw it as a reptilian form. That's why I was acting out. I was half human, half reptilian form. So this could be that I had kind of seen this even at an early age as to why I was misbehaving, whatever it was, throwing food or chasing girls around with spiders or whatever it was, acting up a lot, and then they send you to a social worker or psychiatrist to see what your issue is. And I remembered that I had drawn myself half human and half reptilian. And so I think that that's what a lot of people are dealing with. Some may be stronger than others. Some maybe have different kinds of demons. But I think that this is really where it's at. I mean, it's one of the most relative things to us, because we don't. Well, the scripture says that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. So it could mean that we're not going to have a physical encounter. But once again, I'm not saying that I think that there's no physical shapeshifters. I do think there are, and I do think that they eat people. I think all this is going on, like what Arizona Wilder describes. I believe her testimony could be wrong. I believe what Alex Collier says. He's seen them. They're ugly, or he thinks that they're ugly. And so we have these, and there's countless witnesses. I mean, all you got to do is just look on YouTube. There's just tons of people who say that they had a physical reptilian right in front of them. So I think they are there. They are real, and that's also happening. But what we're seeing with a lot of the stuff on TV, with the reptilian slit eyes, with the claws, the fangs, the scales, and everything else that I just showed on myself, is in fact the non-physical beings living inside regular humans. So as deflating as that is, it's less exciting, because then it's kind of like, well, we want to see a monster, we want to have an interaction with a real monster, but we have to be accurate about what's actually going on.